Go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And hopefully you guys all had a chance to read the little paper I put up. Let me find my information here, which I had already, but you know how that goes. Okay, sorry about this. I did have it ready. Meeting. Okay, there we go. Okay, I don't know how many of you have tried the new tool in Photoshop, but it's an amazing new tool. And I found some of it's the reflection removal tool. Now, this, as I put on the paper, this can only be used with a raw file, and it opens up in Camera Raw. And so hopefully if you looked over that paper I sent out, that you saw that how to get to it. But just in case you didn't, I'll go ahead and if when you get into Camera Raw, if you go up to the removal tool, if you click on that, you should see a button here that says reflections. And if you don't see that, you'll just need to go down and click on the words down below at the bottom of your pictures. Go in, and then where it says technology previews, you'll go in there and you'll make sure this button is checked, because it's a new AI feature, and this will be any of the stuff that gets added to Photoshop with just for their previews of things. So keep in mind, this will get a lot better. After you check that box, if it didn't show up and you've checked that box now, go ahead and you'll have to restart your Photoshop, and then it should come back. If for some reason it does not show up when you come back into Photoshop, I've had a little bit of success with people by them signing off their computer and signing back on. So that helps. Where I found this tool the greatest is, I try to avoid reflections as much as possible, but sometimes you just can't. But especially with zoo photography, you've always got either glass or something between you. And so I've got a couple examples of zoo photography. If anybody has any questions along the way, just yell. And I'll do it. But as you can see, it's got a pretty bad reflection here. And I could have worked on this a little bit in Photoshop and tried to fix it with some of the other AI stuff, and, tried to work on it, but it always takes a long time. So now I just pull this up, I click on the remove tool, I go down and I click on reflections, and then give it a second or two, depending on how fast your file is.
Got a question from Ron Browning. He
Okay.
says, you go to full screen mode.
Does that help?
That helps.
Okay. I can't see hold on, let me get rid of the people thing then. Okay. Because I couldn't see that. Okay. And as you can see, with just that click of a button, it's not always perfect. There's a couple little spots that may need fixing. This has a little bit of a white on the log back there that I might need to fix, but it's taken a lot of the work out. And what's really interesting is if you go in and you're trying to figure out, well, I wonder what that was reflecting. And you can take this slider right here and go the other direction, and you can see what it took out of your picture. And so if you want part of the reflection for some reason, you can stop anywhere in between here. But one side will give you the picture and one side will give you what it removed. So it's kind of interesting. As I was going through some of these the first time, I had one where it did the opposite for me. So it showed the reflection on the slider on the right, and then when I slid it the other way, it showed the picture. So if you're getting what looks like the reflections, slide it the other way, and the picture wouldn't do it again. So
excuse me, Paul, I got a question from Dale for
okay.
prefer to do this after your normal editing or
You
before?
can you can do it either way. I've got one here that's kind of dark when I get to it that I'll show you that you can't really see it much ahead of time. And then when I go ahead and edit it like I would, it shows up better. I like to take it to wherever it shows up best. So in this particular one, it didn't matter. I could go in and do my edits however I wanted. So it doesn't matter when you do it
Okay,
that I've noticed. Just try to get it whenever it's showing up the best. And if you use auto, it's probably going to do better once you get rid of it because it's not going to have those light parts to counteract it.
okay.
This second one here, same critter. And when I go in, one of the problems is I've got this great big white spot here. And this is one I could try to take it down some, but it's blown out, so it's not going to do much. So I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to click on the reflection. This is one where it's going to fix part of it, but it may not be perfect. Because for one, I'm still going to have to go in and take that basketball hoop out. Uh, so here's one that went the opposite direction on me. So just keep in mind, sometimes, and I haven't figured out why, but it'll think the reflection is actually that, and you can go the other direction with it. And in this one, I could fix this, or I could do what I was going to do anyway, and just crop the picture a lot, and then just fix the little bit of a basketball goal that I have to fix. And so and then edit it from here. But you can see it does a remarkable job because
Oh, yeah.
I've used a lot of things with on some of the animals trying to get that kind of a haze you kind of get, or that ghosting effect that you get from things like reflections and stuff like that. And I've worked on a lot and tried to get it, but it's still a royal pain. So unless the picture is really incredible, I just didn't bother with it most of the time. So as you can see, it's pretty much, and then you can just open it in Photoshop as real and regular. Now that's the reflections. And then I got to thinking, okay, what else could I use this for? Because like I said, I don't have that many reflections because usually if I see a reflection too bad, I don't take it unless I absolutely have to. But then I got to thinking, fences at zoos. And if you ask anybody how to shoot, and not get the fences in it, they're going to give you the same old stuff. Oh, you stand close to the fence and they have the animal back far enough and blah, blah, blah. And, your aperture at 2.8 or as low as you can go. And I know all that. I've shot enough at the zoos, but there are times you cannot do that. For instance, our zoo has now pushed people back a little bit farther. And so they have the pin for instance, on the tiger, they have the pin for the tiger. They used to have a fairly small, and you could lean over and get your camera a little bit closer. Well, now they've made a higher fence there because people kept putting their kids on it and everything else. And so, but me being short, I can't do that anymore. So I have to take what I can get. If the tiger's back far enough, a lot of times it works great. The one problem with this at our tiger exhibit is the best time to see the animals are during the keeper chats because the animals usually come up closer. They're usually more active. In this particular instance, this tiger spends a lot of time pacing back and forth right up here, which makes a crummy shot because you've got the fence in the background. So sometimes I have that fence, but the keeper chat's in the afternoon. In the afternoon, with the black fence, the sun is coming right at it. So it's going to be the best time for the light on the tiger, but the worst time because of lights on the fence. And so this is one of these where it came close, but I was just trying to think, I don't when these tools come out, start thinking about other things that you might be able to use it on, because remember, AI is artificial intelligence. So it's just doing what it's been taught. And, this fence to me kind of looks like it could be a reflection.
Wow.
And so, I mean, little things like that can take your picture. And, I didn't really see anything on this, where some of them there's a little bit, but you'll want to check it. But none of that telltale stuff that you shot through a fence, where it's got the little bit of the ghosting, even if you can't see it much, the color changes a little bit or something. And you don't get any of that with this. It's a pretty amazing tool. Anybody have any questions, or everybody still doing all right? Okay. Another thing, once again, I kept thinking, what can I use it for? Because I've got several different examples here, but this bird here in our zoo has this white mesh in front of it. Now, I've did everything I could to try to make it disappear. Most of the time I can get pretty close like this, but I'm like, there's just no way to photograph this bird any good, because you can't get close to the enclosure. You can't get, I mean, he's always behind the white mesh. And so, I've tried to make it disappear with my aperture and everything else. So I thought, well, I'll try it on here. And so let it go here for a second. Once again, it's thinking it's a reflection.
Oh, man. Wow.
And so this is where I'm talking about too. It's not perfect. Oh, I'm sorry. It's didn't mean to do that one. Yeah, that's what I thought. Let me see why I can't, if I can get it. No, well, it's not perfect. It's still got some, and if I lighten it up a little bit, you can see it. A little bit of the fence and stuff like, there we go. A little bit of the fence but it's a lot better. I can fix it a lot closer now than I could have before. And a lot of the stuff that I use these for is I just give them to the zoo for them to use. And, they're using it on the web. So it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect
Hey,
if they
Carla,
want to. Uh-huh.
I think Gail has a question. Is it best to do this after your normal processing or before?
You can do it either one, but it has to be, the processing all has to be done in camera raw. So I will say that you can't do any processing in Photoshop and then take it into camera raw. You can't use the camera raw filter on it. Like when you go over to Photoshop and it opens it in the camera raw filter. So right now you have to open it directly into Photoshop. And even if you do, open in Photoshop from Lightroom, it doesn't open it in this particular thing. So you can't do it from there either. So this is one of these things you're going to have to probably, once you finish it, you can import it into Photoshop as your Photoshop with your Photoshop document. So it's not going to automatically go back to Photoshop Lightroom. It's not going to automatically go back into Lightroom because you didn't open it from Lightroom. So hopefully that'll be one of the things they fix is eventually, hopefully this will be imported into Lightroom on their camera raw. And, hopefully it'll open up to other formats besides just a raw file. But just remember, it's a new feature. Hopefully it's going to get better. I'm hoping that as it gets better, they don't teach it to recognize a fence instead of a reflection and say,
Carla, this is really kind of interesting. Have you tried a rain shot where you've got a heavy rain in an image?
I haven't.
I can't wait to try that.
Yeah. Well, that's you have to just try to, I've tried a lot of different things. I haven't got that one yet. So it's just a matter of trying it and seeing if it's going to work.
Yeah.
But just when you look at it, try to think, okay, could artificial intelligence think that's a reflection? Because it's just looking for certain things. And that's why I thought with this particular little guy, he was fairly new. He just came out on exhibit. He was there in the afternoon, and the sun was coming straight on the fence. And you can get a little bit close to the fence, but not close enough. And he wasn't far enough back with his mom. And so I took a bunch of pictures. I had a couple that I was able to fix a little bit, but this one was one. It's like, I'm not going to spend that much time, but I'm a person that can't very well delete things for some reason. And now I figured out why. So on this particular one, I wanted the picture of the baby because, like I said, he had just gone on exhibit. He wasn't out all the time. In fact, the next 2 or 3 times I went earlier and he wasn't out. So I was really hoping these pictures would turn out. And now this one was included on the paper. I could just click it and, yeah, you could have did it and taken a long time to fix all that and got it okay, but not perfect. But just doing this real quick. And you get that. Now, on the question as far as doing it before or after, I
Wow.
usually do it before, but you don't have to. It kind of depends on the picture, kind of depends on the order you want to do it. This is one in particular. If you look at it, you don't see a lot. It's definitely underexposed, or actually I exposed for the log more than anything. So it didn't blow out. So the tiger's pretty dark. You can't see a lot of the fence. So in this particular one, I had to lighten it up a little bit before I could really see it. And so in this particular case, I just did some adjustments beforehand. So from what I've been found out so far, it doesn't matter where you do it as long as it stays in camera raw on your Photoshop. Like I said, I'm guessing they'll put it in Lightroom one of these days once they get it fixed. But then, so I've taken a picture now that
Wow.
went from not much, and you can see even where it went over his face, you can't really tell. And then I could go in and, you know, do some more adjustments and
Carla,
it,
Ron Browning photographs a lot of cars. And when you do that, you get all kinds of reflections. Now, I took a car picture, which really had a lot of reflections to it, and it didn't do anything. It acted like those reflections belong in the car, But I'm sure, Ron, and I know you're listening, maybe we need to experiment with this a little more.
well, and the way they talk about it, it says to remove reflections when you're taking it through glass. So I'm hoping it's also going to, because a lot of people have had where they want it is glasses when you're taking portrait pictures.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see as it matures here what all reflections they can get rid of.
Oh, boy, that will help with the honor flight, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that's part of what they're going to
Right.
build into it,
We'll see.
but it's just in the beginning phases. Another one of the tiger. When he's getting ready to jump, and it's like you just had to try to grab it, and it's not very good. But this will fix it. Now I know why I don't delete everything immediately. So
Wow.
then we've got the picture of the tiger. One of them that several of you guys were at, it was the Niobe Zoo when we went out there.
Right.
This monkey was back here, and I did a halfway decent job of taking it without the fence showing through. And I was able, when I'm on my edit, I was able to darken this and get it pretty good to where it didn't look bad. But I spent a lot of time on that, trying to make it, I mean, not too long, but longer than this. And see, it's going right across his eyes too. So it's like, okay, what can it do on here? And I think I don't know if this works if you're not hooked up to the internet. Haven't heard anybody say. It might have to go to the internet to look for it. But then everything I had done before, and it looks better than what I had done. His eyes is taking that haze off. You could still adjust it a little bit, add a little bit more contrast to it, but you've got a good starting point now. And then one of the others, and this is the last one, is this was definitely taken through glass at the Niobe Zoo, or however you pronounce it. And so I was curious, since it's just light, is it going to do it? So it's pretty amazing what it can do. And like I said, for zoo photography, it makes a world of difference. Because there's times, you can't help it. And everybody can tell you as many times as they want that, oh, well, you just need to shoot it. This is how you shoot it in camera. And I'm just kind of like, I mean, I had one person, I posted this on a zoo photography Facebook deal, and I had one person tell me, well, you just need to get 6 feet from the fence, and the animal needs to be 6 feet on the other side, and you'll get it every time. And I thought, well, that's garbage, but I don't throw back on Facebook. I just kind of like, oh, okay. And somebody else came back and said, well, that's not going to work, because the closer you are to the fence and the farther the animal is. And so he was much more diplomatic than I would have probably been. And so, but see, you can take it, still needs a little bit of work, but you've got a picture you can start with and actually just work on the animal. And then if you change the background some way or something like that, you can do that to save the picture if you don't want the back windows.
Wow.
So but see, and it didn't take out all the reflections on the glass behind him. So those are the examples I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, those are amazing.
It's pretty incredible what it'll do.
Yeah, and like you say,
You can only use it in camera raw right now, correct?
Right. And you
Yeah.
have to, and like I said, you can't go from Lightroom where you've imported them. You can't do a open with Photoshop or anything like that. You actually have to go over with, you have to open it in Photoshop. Now, one thing I might try, I don't have camera raw on there, so I don't know if you could open it, right click and open it in camera raw or not. And I think somebody said in Bridge, you can open it from Bridge if you're using that. But I haven't got Bridge, so haven't tried that.
Wow, good examples, Carla.
But always keep in mind, just when they come out with something, just remember that artificial intelligence is that. It's artificial. You can fool it a lot of times. And so think about what else it might think is what it's removing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's another good tool, that's for sure.
Yeah. So any questions, comments?
No, just gotta play with it.
That's the thing on all these tools. Just get in and play with them. But you got to know they're there first. So, and I've talked to several people. I talked to one lady that is teaching, or well, she does a lot of zoo photography, and I was talking to her just recently. I mean, and she does workshops and stuff like that at zoos, and I was talking to her and I was saying something about this tool and she's like, I don't know anything about that. So I sent her the little paper I wrote up that I sent out to you guys. And she was like, that looks really interesting. So she was intrigued.
Carla,
But they don't
about that,
advertise a lot of that. Mhm.
about that paper you sent out, I didn't see
Uh-huh.
that before. I wonder where I can find it now.
It's on the
Uh,
web.
It's on the webpage?
Yeah, I think there's a PDF file out there
Okay,
under the Zoom meeting for tonight.
You know, Mark,
Okay.
if you can't find it, I can resend it to you. It was,
Yeah, Jay actually sent it out. I didn't.
it was on the original, email telling about Carla's program. There was a PDF attached that showed exactly how to access it in Camera Raw in Photoshop, you know. We can get that for you.
All right, thanks.